Howdy folks, Nathan here, way up in the Rockies with one of our favorite crossover SUVs. And that's because this is the brand new Ford Bronco Sport. This is the Heritage Edition, it's limited. So it's got the bigger 2-liter turbocharged engine, and it has the GOAT mode, go over any terrain mode. And it has a trick rear end, dual clutch rear end. And in this video, I'm gonna take you around the vehicle and we're gonna go through this white stuff called snow, and we are going to head up the hills a little bit and take it for some light off-roading. But in doing so, I am going to win you over with an argument, which is, this is the right Bronco for you. The big Bronco, as awesome as it is, probably not. Stay tuned. So we're gonna put this into drive. We have this GOAT modes. So if I rotate this, if you look at the center dash, which actually has a nice little screen there, it'll go from normal, eco, sport, slippery. I think we need something a little bit more aggressive. So there's mud and ruts or sand. And then of course there's rock crawl. Now they all do different things with the transmission and the traction control, but I think that mud and ruts is probably the right call. And then later on, I'm probably going to lock up the rear diff. Now, it's not really a diff, it's a clutch, right? And the cool thing about this having this dual clutch in the back is that even if you have 3 of your wheels spinning, it'll be able to figure out where to send power to make you move. And we've actually proven that with Tommy putting this on the rollers, and this vehicle did about as good as any vehicle 3 times its price. The funny part is, the off-roading I've just done over the past 10 seconds, well, if I were to do that in something like a Toyota Corolla Cross, which I did do, by the way, on the same hill, but without snow, that poor thing was absolutely pushed to the limit. It was just hating it. It did it, some of it, but it was not happy. This vehicle has already impressed the hell out of everybody at TFL. It's a mixture of mechanical and electronic capability, and it shows how much you can do by thinking slightly outside the box, even with something that could basically be a daily grocery getter. That's what I said. By the way, the suspension setup on this is really good. I know that some of you would probably like this to have a little bit more flex to it, or perhaps a little bit more ground clearance. I mean, we're talking around 8.8 inches, and there are Subarus out there that have more ground clearance. And I would agree, more ground clearance would be awesome. However, if you lift this thing any higher, you are going to affect things like handling and gas mileage. And remember, Ford, they have to keep that in mind when they're selling this vehicle to you guys. So there's one of those unfortunate balances where you have to think, okay, I really want another 3 inches. Well, who doesn't? But is it logical to do on a vehicle like this? For an automaker? Probably not. All right, here are some important numbers for you. Approach angle is 30.4 degrees, breakover is 20.4 degrees, and departure angles 33.7 degrees. Ground clearance on this is about 8.8 inches, and it has a 23.6 inch depth for weighting. Meaning, of course, that this is a vehicle that, if you look at it on paper, is fairly off-road capable. But, of course, its bigger brother, the real Bronco with the truck platform and all that, obviously more capable. But day-to-day driving, I argue this is a way better choice. If you bought yourself a full-size Bronco, right, you would have to step up into it most likely, unless you're really tall, or fairly tall, I should say. Especially if you get one with larger tires and a lift and everything else. This, I just slid my butt over and kind of fell into it a little bit. If I were shorter, this would be something very easy to get into, especially with a fairly large door opening. Once again, I find, as an everyday vehicle, a little Sport to be superior. Now, a couple things you should know. This is a fairly plain interior, but Ford was really smart by adding little things here and there, like the color that is just brings out a little bit more than a boring black interior, right? And they put splashes of color in certain spots, and I think it's just enough. I wouldn't mind having a little bit more, but it's not obtrusive, right? It doesn't just jump out at you. And I love the way they did this. Look at the way the white goes up and around, and you can actually see it comes over here. So it surrounds this area. It just looks like they put a little bit of effort into something that they could have easily just walked away from and nobody would have cared. A couple other things, because this is the Heritage Edition, because this is really the high-end one, it's a limited, you get these really nice seats that are very soft. And the white, look at this stitching here. I think this looks great. Looks like a baseball mitt, but there is a negative. For my large American booty, not the most comfortable seat on the planet. It's kind of flat. If you look here, you can see, like, if you have a little bit of girth, you're going to push this down. There's just like not a lot of bolstering, and it just kind of feels a little bit slidey, especially when you're off-road. It's not too bad because you're in a relatively small vehicle, so it's not like you're flying across it. There's not much to fly across. But I do think that, I don't know, a little bit more bolstering down here would have been good. Just a little tiny bit. Back support's okay. I mean, it's not perfect, but I guess the reason why I'm complaining just a little bit is because I know how good the F-150 is. And these feel a little bit more like the Maverick seats. And Maverick seats in my book also are okay, a little hard for my taste, but to each their own. So this is an 8-inch screen. A lot of you guys probably won't like the size. I don't think it's that bad. I like where it sits, and I like the fact that it's not reflective off anything. When screens get really big, in my book, they tend to flood the interior with light when you're driving at night. And in this case, well, that's not the case. And I like that. Very simple controls, and they're rubberized. I like that a lot. On a cold day like today, it's pretty cold up here. Don't have a lot of feeling in my fingertips, so having that rubber that you can grab onto, that's huge. The other switch gear here, not that big of a deal. But what's unusual about it is that this is the start-stop system here. I think I would have rather have this somewhere else. And here is the cameras. Now, 180-degree view in the front with the cameras, which is great. And then if I put it into gear, there you go. And you can play around a little bit with the camera system there. That's your tow hitch lineup. I like that. So there's some cool stuff going on here. And let's put it back into drive, put it back on the camera. Da-dang! And I'm sorry, guys, there's a little bit of goo and snow and condensation on it because, well, it's snowing outside. But it actually is pretty useful, not just for going off-road, but for parking. Once again, this thing just makes so much sense for day-to-day driving. A couple other things I wanted to show you over here. The heating and air conditioning setup is great. It is a little bit different if you get the base model versions of this, and we will talk about the base model a little bit later. But I love this type of thing where it just simply tells you where the air is going to be going. I know it seems trivial, but I'm an old man and infirm, and so being able to figure this out is nice. Large knobs, once again, rubberized. I love that. And I have heated seats. I have a heated steering wheel. For Coloradans, that's great. Obviously, for the price of this, which we'll get to at the end, I wouldn't mind having ventilated seats as well. So there's a little bit of a challenging area over here. I'm not going to go too crazy because I have to come back to the studio from here. But there's definitely some places that are going to force a tire or two to come up off the ground. There's something to be said about the way the suspension is set up on this too, because you throw it around a corner and it seems to be pretty stable, but because of these Balkans, they seem to, the grip, you know, it's a little bit on the limited side when you really start driving like an idiot on the streets. But if you drive normally, I think it's a pretty good setup. Once again, I think that this feels and handles a little bit better than its big brother on the streets. I'm not trying to tell you guys not to buy a full-size Bronco if you seriously want to go off-road. Or if you want to tow, because this thing doesn't tow much. Although, frankly, neither does the Bronco. But if you're really not going to do that much off-roading, or if you're just going to do some light camping and off-roading and stuff, man, these things are really good. I haven't had to lock up the rear yet, and I'm still in mud and ruts mode. And it's not having a problem at all. A couple spots here and there where it loses just a tiny bit of traction. Not a big deal either. I wouldn't have a problem scaling this whole mountain, which has challenged like the Jeep Grand Cherokee before. I'm gonna turn on the little rear locker. Yeah, a little bit of traction-ish. Oh, there it goes. All locked up. It's being lightly challenged. I think this thing could do a lot more. Once again, I'm trying to take it easy. But yeah, not much of a problem. Such a happy little car. There is an attribute to having the big turbo in here, the big engine, which is the 2-liter. It means you make 250 horsepower and 277 pound-feet of torque, which is pretty good. And it doesn't take much to spool up the engine either. But at the same time, it doesn't go crazy. Like, there's no major bump between going, say, between 1,000 RPM and 2,000 RPM for this turbos to kick in. It just doesn't. 8-speed automatic transmission has been flawless so far. Hasn't really been searching for gears. I have a lot easier time, frankly, getting this thing to do what I wanted to do than the Ford Maverick. All right, yes, 2-inch hitch, my friends. It is capable of towing between 2,000 and 2,200 pounds. Not a lot, but check this out. Not many crossovers in this class have a separate opening glass, which I really do like. Now, if we close this and open this, 32.5 cubic feet right there. And then, if you fold these seats down, it becomes relatively flat, and it has this hard plastic surface back here as well, which is great for muddy stuff. And then you've got 65 cubic feet of cargo space plus. It does depend how the vehicle is equipped, because there are certain things that this vehicle can or cannot come with. But look at this. Can you see that? That's important. That is a full-size spare, my friends, a rarity nowadays. Although, this is a Pirelli, it's a Scorpion, and the tires that are on this vehicle, Falcon Wild Peaks. Now, as much as I love this vehicle, there is a problem. And that is for large, heavy people like me. Because sitting behind myself, not the easiest thing. This seat is about as far back as it can go. And you're going to notice not a ton of space here. Here I go. All right. One foot. It's the other foot. Yeah. Fortunately, the seat has a scalloped back, and that allows my knees to push in back here. And there is enough room for my feet in their size 13 boots to fit underneath the front seat here. Thank goodness, because otherwise it would be painful. So I can fit back here. I'm fairly comfortable. Compared to some other vehicles, it's okay. Headroom is really good though. A couple other things here. Bam! Cup holders. Yeah, big surprise there. But I do like this. Vents in the back. Not all vehicles in this class have this. This is huge to me. And then down here, you have, wait for it, see if I can open it from here. There it goes. Look at that. You can plug in a laptop. Well, 110, yeah, 400 watts. You could run, I guess, a laptop. But more importantly, you can charge your phones. One more thing I wanted to show you that I like this. Having the zippers on a pouch here, and actually having a pretty nice little lining in there, I think that's just really cool. And this is kind of beefy, you know, it doesn't feel like it's gonna fall apart in your hands. I like having that. And then I'm gonna move this backpack just a little bit. Look at this, webbing. And yeah, you can actually use it. I just like the little touches that they put into this vehicle in order to make it a little bit more useful, not only off-road, but day-to-day life. It's just, I think, kind of brilliant. I wanted to show you this. Now, I hope you're sitting down because this is not a cheap vehicle. In fact, this is probably the most, or one of the most expensive versions of the Bronco Sport. The sticker shows the price here is $46,400. A lot of dough, I agree, especially because these start at around 31 and change if you get the 3-cylinder turbo. And by the way, that comes standard with all-wheel drive, but it's not the same all-wheel drive system that this has. Regardless, that system works really well and probably wouldn't have a problem getting to where we've gotten so far here. I would recommend for many of you who are looking for better mileage, this is 23 mpg combined, the 3-cylinder gets better mileage, obviously, to look at that one, because you can get a lot of the goodies that you can get in that, and not spend as much. At the same time, if you want the Heritage Edition with all the muscle, then this is the direction you're going to have to go into. Now, what if you were to get a full-size Bronco, 4 doors, and you wanted all the goodies that this has, essentially, without having to go too crazy with getting, something like the Raptor or something like that? Yeah, you're going to be spending in the 50s. Okay. So, yes, you would save money with this. But one thing that I really do appreciate about something like this is that as a parent with kids and someone who owns a bunch of dogs, this would be my choice logically, financially. I really like the way these things look. I love the way they drive. They do light off-roading quite well. Really, its biggest issue is not a ton of backseat space, and they don't tow a lot. Otherwise, well, just a great vehicle. And as I close out, we're going to hit a little bit more just light off-roading in this lovely terrain. By the way, this is what midwinter looks like in the Rocky Mountains. I'm going to turn around here and go over just this little tiny area. Look at the beautiful trees and mountains. God, absolutely, positively love being in the Rocky Mountains. But you know what I like better? Traveling around and doing videos all over the world. And guess what? You're going to start seeing more and more of that stuff in the near future. TFL, well, we're off the hook. We do that a lot. So stay tuned for that. And stay tuned for some more snow videos. Guys, it's such a great little car. I'll see you guys next time.